I'm Marlo Sutton, 32 years old, and half a year back, my own parents dragged me into court demanding $712,000 for a property I'd never consented to purchase. They'd acquired a 4-bedroom residence in the suburbs for my sister Calliope, then secretly added my name to the loan documents as a guarantor without my awareness or permission. A collection agency's notice brought it to my attention. When I dialed my mother's number, my hands trembling as I demanded answers, her response contained just 5 words that continue reverberating through my mind. "We determined you would cover it." When I declined, no apology followed. Instead, they filed litigation. Calliope took the witness stand against me, insisting I'd made an oral commitment during a Christmas gathering 2 years prior. What they remained unaware of was something I'd preserved in documentation for years, anticipating the moment I'd require evidence that my perception of reality wasn't distorted. Before revealing what transpired in that courtroom, please consider liking and subscribing, though only if this narrative genuinely resonates with you. I'm curious about your location and current time. Share it below in the comments. Allow me to transport you to the beginning so you'll comprehend how I transformed into the family antagonist for the transgression of establishing boundaries. During my childhood, 2 daughters existed in the Sutton household, and nobody questioned which one held greater importance. Calliope represented the favored child, charismatic, engaging, perpetually understanding the appropriate words at family gatherings. She'd find humor in father's attempts at comedy, assist mother with kitchen duties unprompted, and somehow convinced every relative they were her most treasured person. Educators cherished her. Community members acknowledged her presence with friendly gestures. She embodied the type of daughter parents boast about at religious gatherings. Then there existed me, reserved, concentrated. I gravitated toward numerical data over casual conversation, financial spreadsheets over idle chatter. While Calliope accumulated praise, I accumulated superior academic marks, not from craving validation, but because analytical precision resonated with me in ways interpersonal dynamics never achieved. When I successfully completed my certified public accountant examination at 26, I contacted home, anticipating congratulatory remarks. My father's reaction was, "When are you planning marriage like your sister?" Calliope had wed Brennan Foster at 24, producing 2 children by 28. My parents subsidized their rental expenses for 5 consecutive years, monthly financial transfers, 0 inquiries posed. When I completed my degree burdened with educational debt, I eliminated it independently. Nobody volunteered assistance. Nobody questioned whether I required support. Every celebration followed identical patterns. Mother would observe Calliope cradling a grandchild and subsequently direct that expression toward me. The one communicating I lacked something fundamental. "You should model yourself after your sister," she'd inform me, patting my hand as though I represented an unfinished project she refused abandoning. Calliope understands how to cultivate affection. I discontinued expecting commendation approximately when I recognized I'd never acquire it, regardless of my accomplishments. Different regulations applied to me. They perpetually had. I simply remained unaware how drastically different, until they required something I possessed. The designation arrived gradually, then suddenly overwhelmed everything. Marlo, the self-centered one. It commenced 3 years back when Calliope telephoned requesting $17,000. She required a replacement vehicle. Her existing one experienced transmission complications, and Brennan's employment wasn't adequately covering their expenditures. She committed to reimbursing me within half a year. I declined, not because resources were unavailable, but because she continued owing me $9,000 from the previous instance. Funds I'd never recovered, never even received acknowledgement for. Mother telephoned that evening in tears. "How can you demonstrate such coldness toward your own sister?" 6 months elapsed. Then Calliope requested I guarantee her apartment lease. The property manager demanded a cosigner, and her credit history wasn't sufficiently strong. I refused. I clarified that guaranteeing meant legal accountability, that if she failed payments, I'd bear responsibility. Father's response manifested as 3 weeks of complete silence. No telephone contact, no messages, the frigid treatment administered with surgical exactness. Subsequently arrived my nephew's 5th birthday celebration. I couldn't participate. A deadline for a significant client examination loomed. Absence meant jeopardizing my employment. I transmitted a gift, telephoned with apologies. Calliope published a social media statement that evening. Family should perpetually take priority. Unfortunate when certain individuals forget that principle. 47 approval reactions, 12 comments concurring with her perspective. Aunt Delphine composed some people exclusively care about themselves. Following that incident, I initiated record keeping. Every request, every refusal, every guilt manipulation that followed. I established a folder in my electronic mail labeled Family Requests. Not from vindictiveness, but because when you're informed you're irrational sufficiently often, you begin requiring evidence you're not. That folder would transform into the most crucial possession I owned. I simply didn't recognize it yet. The envelope appeared unremarkable. Standard banking letterhead. My name and residential address printed in that impersonal typeface all financial institutions utilize. I nearly discarded it alongside promotional mail. Second notification. The header stated mortgage payment delinquent. Property address 5932, Ashmont Drive, Thornfield, Oregon. I'd never encountered Ashmont Drive. I'd never visited Thornfield. My hands turned cold as I continued reading. Outstanding balance, $712,000. Cosigner Marlo R. Sutton. I contacted the banking institution immediately. The representative maintained politeness, professionalism. Completely oblivious, she was preparing to invert my reality. Affirmative, Ms. Sutton. You're documented as cosigner on this mortgage. The account originated 16 months ago. The primary borrowers are Darius Sutton and Calliope Sutton Foster. There must be an error. My voice sounded unfamiliar. I never authorized anything. I have the application documentation here, ma'am. Your signature appears on file. The documents received notarization on September 15th, 2023. Notarized. Someone had witnessed a signature being placed on documentation and verified it as authentic. A signature I never produced, for a property I never consented purchasing, for a sister who never requested. I accessed my credit report while maintaining the telephone connection. There it existed, a $712,000 liability attached to my identity like a destructive organism, quietly decimating my credit rating for over a year while I remained completely unaware. The mailing address on record was my parents' residence, the one I hadn't inhabited for a decade. I expressed gratitude to the representative and disconnected. Then I examined that notice for 10 consecutive minutes, attempting to comprehend what my family had executed. That evening, I telephoned my mother, and the words she articulated, I continue hearing them during sleepless nights. Mother answered on the third ring, casual, cheerful, as though nothing was problematic. Marlo, what a pleasant surprise. We were just discussing you. Did you attach my name to a mortgage? Silence. 3 seconds. 4. An eternity. We were planning to inform you. Her voice descended. Cautious now. Measured. Inform me what, Mother? Rustling sounds. Father's voice in the background. Then he was on the line. This is family, Marlo. Calliope required the house. You have stable employment. We determined you should contribute. You determined? My hands were trembling. Without consulting me, we raised you. We financed your upbringing. This is what family executes. I eliminated my own educational loans. Every cent. You financed Calliope's entire education. That's different. You were perpetually difficult. I heard Mother reclaim the telephone. Her voice had that moisture-laden edge it acquired when she was preparing to cry. The weapon she'd utilized my entire existence. If you loved us, Marlo, you wouldn't make this so complicated. Make what complicated? You falsified my signature. You committed fraud. Don't be theatrical, Father. Again, irritated now. We utilized your name on some documentation. It's not criminal when it's family. It literally is. We don't have the resources, Marlo. His voice fractured. First time I'd ever heard that. We utilized our retirement for the down payment. All of it. If we lose this house, We lose everything. There it was, the truth beneath the rationalizations. They'd wagered their future on Calliope's dream residence and anticipated me covering the gamble. "You're 32, Father continued. No husband, no children. What do you even require that money for?" I disconnected without answering. Some questions don't merit responses. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I researched. The mathematics was brutal. If the mortgage defaulted with my name attached, my credit score would plummet. 7 years of damage minimum, collection telephone calls, potential litigation from the banking institution, and my career. Many accounting firms execute credit examinations on employees who handle client finances. A foreclosure on my record could cost me everything I'd spent a decade constructing. This wasn't just about money. It was about my entire future. At 2 a.m, I telephoned Thaddeus Kane. We'd been friends in college, study partners during those brutal accounting courses. He'd gone into real estate law instead, specialized in mortgage fraud and property disputes. "Marlo." His voice was groggy. "It's the middle of the night. I know, I apologize. I require help." I told him everything. The letter, the telephone call, my parents' casual admission that they'd signed my name without permission. "If you didn't sign," he said slowly, "this is identity fraud, forgery, serious matters. What do I do? First, obtain copies of everything. The mortgage application, the notarized documents. You have a right to those under federal law. Second, do you have any evidence you never agreed to this?" I thought about my folder, the emails, the documented refusals. I sent Calliope an email 3 years ago when she asked me to co-sign her apartment lease. I told her no in writing. I said I would never co-sign any loan for her. Forward that to me. His voice was sharper now. Alert. That's exactly the kind of evidence we need. Thaddeus said something that night that remained with me. Your signature is your word. If someone forges it, they're not just stealing money, they're stealing your integrity. I located that email at 3 a.m, read it twice, then forwarded it to Thaddeus. 2 weeks elapsed. I drove to my parents' house for Thanksgiving. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to look them in the eye when I said no. The driveway was full. Cars I didn't recognize. My stomach tightened. Inside, I found not just Mother, Father, and Calliope, but Aunt Delphine, Uncle Garrison, Grandma Estelle, and 3 cousins I hadn't seen in years. The dining table was set for 12. This wasn't a holiday dinner. This was an ambush. Calliope stood first, arms crossed. "We all know why we're here." Father nodded. "Marlo, sit down. We need to talk as a family." "About what?" I didn't sit. "Your sister needs this house. This family needs you to step up." Aunt Delphine leaned forward. "You've always been the selfish one, Marlo. This is your chance to prove us wrong." Everyone watched, waiting. The pressure was physical, like humidity before a storm. I didn't sign anything. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Calliope's eyes narrowed. "You said you would help. When? Give me a date." "Christmas 2 years ago at dinner." I said I'd think about it. "Thinking isn't signing." You nodded. Calliope's voice rose. "We all saw you nod. A nod isn't a contract. It is in this family. Then this family has a very loose definition of consent." Uncle Garrison muttered something about ungrateful kids these days. Grandma Estelle dabbed her eyes with a napkin. Mother was already crying. Soft, practiced tears designed to make me the villain. Father stood up. His chair scraped against the floor. The whole room went silent. "Then you leave us no choice." Those words hung in the air like a threat, because that's exactly what they were. "No choice about what?" I asked. Father's jaw was set. That look I'd seen my whole life. The one that meant he'd made a decision and nothing would change it. "We're giving you until December 15th. Either you agree to pay the mortgage or we sue you." The room seemed to tilt. Sue me. My own parents. Sue me for what? Breach of verbal agreement. Calliope is our witness. She'll testify. You promised to help. I looked at my sister. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Just sat there, arms wrapped around herself, playing the victim she'd always been so good at performing. You'd perjure yourself? I asked her directly. Lie under oath. It's not lying if I remember it that way. Mother rushed over, grabbed my hands. Her face was wet, pleading. Marlo, please. We're your parents. How can you do this to us? You committed fraud, Mother. You stole my identity. And you're asking what I'm doing to you? It's family money. It's not stealing when it's family. I pulled my hands free. The touch felt contaminated now. Grandpa Theron, my father's father, sat at the end of the table. He hadn't said a word the entire time. 84 years old. Quiet in a way that always seemed like wisdom rather than absence. His eyes met mine across the room. No accusation there. No judgment. Something else. Something that looked almost like pity. December 15th. Father repeated. You have 3 weeks. I gathered my coat, my keys, what was left of my composure. I'll see you in court. Then walking out, I heard Mother wail, heard Aunt Delphine call me heartless, heard everything except an apology. But Grandpa's expression stayed with me the whole drive home. He knew something. I was sure of it. I was almost to my car when I heard footsteps behind me. Grandpa Theron moved slowly, his cane tapping against the concrete driveway. The November air was sharp, carrying the smell of dead leaves and someone's distant fireplace. Marlo, wait. I turned. He was breathing hard from the short walk. 84 years old, chasing his granddaughter into the cold because no one else would. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I can't stay in there. I know. He reached me, steadied himself. His eyes were clear despite his age, clearer than anyone else's in that house. You shouldn't. Did you know about the mortgage? He was quiet for a moment. I found out after tried to talk sense into your father. He wouldn't listen. He never does. I felt something crack in my chest. All those years of wondering if I was the problem, if my boundaries made me broken somehow. And here was the one person telling me I wasn't crazy. Check the notary date, he said quietly. On the mortgage documents, something's not right. What do you mean? Just check it. He squeezed my arm. And Marlo, your grandmother would be proud of you standing up like this. She never could with Darius Sr. Wishes she had. Grandma Constance had passed 8 years ago. I barely remembered her, but I remembered she was kind, soft-spoken in a family full of loud opinions. I hugged him, brief, careful. His bones felt fragile under his coat. Then I got in my car and drove home in silence. No radio, no podcasts, just the highway and my thoughts and the ache of leaving behind a family that had never really been mine. That night, I opened my laptop, started digging. Grandpa was right. Something wasn't right, and I was going to find out exactly what. If you've ever been in a situation where your own family made you feel like the villain just for having boundaries, I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments below. You're not alone in this, and neither am I. While you're here, if this story is resonating with you, a like really helps the channel grow. Now, let me tell you what I found when I started digging into that mortgage application. Because Grandpa was right. Something was very wrong. Under federal law, I had the right to request copies of any financial documents bearing my name. I filed the paperwork that week. The bank processed it in 10 days. When the envelope arrived, I sat at my kitchen table for a full minute before opening it. Whatever was inside would either confirm my worst fears or prove I was somehow mistaken about everything. I wasn't mistaken. The mortgage application was 12 pages long. My signature appeared on 3 of them. I studied it under my desk lamp, comparing it to my actual signature on my driver's license. The differences were subtle but unmistakable. My M curves inward at the top, a quirk from rushing through signatures during tax season. The M on these documents curved outward, rounder, slower. Written by someone who knew what my signature looked like, but had never actually watched me write it. Then I checked the notary date, September 15th, 2023. My heart stopped. I pulled up my calendar from that month, scrolled through the entries, and there it was. September 14th through 17th, National Accounting Conference, Portland. I'd been 900 miles away when someone signed my name on a $712,000 mortgage. I had the boarding pass, the hotel receipt, a photo I'd posted on social media, standing with 2 colleagues in front of Pioneer Courthouse Square, time-stamped September 15th at 5:13 in the afternoon. The document claimed I'd signed in person, witnessed by a notary in Oregon on a day I wasn't even in Thornfield. Someone had forged my signature, and someone else, a licensed notary public, had verified a lie. I forwarded everything to Thaddeus that night. His response came in 3 minutes. This is exactly what I needed. We're not just defending anymore. We're going on offense. Thaddeus filed a subpoena for the bank's internal records. As part of my counterclaim preparation, we had the right to any communications related to my mortgage application. The bank's legal team complied within 2 weeks. Standard procedure when fraud allegations are on the table. What they sent changed everything. Thaddeus called me on a Tuesday evening. His voice had that edge it gets when he's found something significant. "Marlo, I need you to sit down. Just tell me. There's an email chain between Calliope and the loan officer who processed your application, a guy named Vincent Hayes." He read them to me. Each word landed like a hammer. Email 1 from Calliope. "Is there any way to add my sister to the application without her being physically present? She's traveling for work and can't make it to the signing." Email 2. Vincent's reply. "If you have power of attorney, or she can sign remotely through a verified process, we can accommodate that. Otherwise, we'd need her present for notarization." Email 3 from Calliope. "She can't do remote signing. She's at a conference with bad connectivity, but my father can handle the paperwork on her behalf. Is that okay?" Email 4. Vincent's response. "As long as the documents are properly notarized, we can process the application. As long as the documents are properly notarized." Meaning Vincent Hayes either didn't know or didn't care that my father was about to forge my signature and have his buddy stamp it as legitimate. "He cut corners," Thaddeus said. "Didn't verify your identity. Didn't confirm consent. That's a massive compliance violation." I stared at the wall of my apartment. Reading those emails felt like watching my own robbery in slow motion, and everyone involved thought they'd get away with it. Thaddeus advised me to file a formal report. Identity fraud, forgery, criminal complaints that would create an official record regardless of what happened in civil court. I went to the Portland Police Department on a Wednesday morning, filled out paperwork, handed over copies of everything: the mortgage documents, my flight records, the email chain. The officer who took my statement was polite, but non-committal. "We'll be in touch," she said. I didn't expect much. A week later, my phone rang. Unknown number, with a Portland prefix. "Miss Sutton, this is Detective Ramirez, Financial Crimes Unit." I nearly dropped my coffee. "I've reviewed the documents you submitted," she continued. "Based on the evidence, we're opening a formal investigation into potential identity fraud and forgery." What does that mean? It means we'll be contacting the notary who certified your signature and the loan officer who processed the application. We may request additional documentation from the bank. She paused. "This is a serious matter, Miss Sutton. Mortgage fraud carries significant penalties. I understand. I have one question before I let you go." Her voice was careful, measured. "Do you believe your family members knew this was illegal?" The question hit harder than I expected. Not because the answer was unclear, but because saying it out loud made everything more real. I think they didn't care. I finally said they needed money. They saw me as a solution. Whatever laws they broke, whatever it meant for my credit, my career, none of that mattered as much as getting what they wanted. Detective Ramirez was quiet for a moment. "We'll be in touch, Miss Sutton. In the meantime, save any communications you receive from your family. They may become relevant." I saved everything. I'd learned that lesson a long time ago. December 20th, 5 days before Christmas. The process server found me at work. Professional, efficient. She handed me the envelope with the practiced detachment of someone who does this 100 times a week. "Marlo Sutton. Yes, you've been served." Inside, Darius Sutton and Lorraine Sutton versus Marlo Sutton filed in Multnomah County Civil Court. Damages sought: $712,000 plus legal fees and court costs. The complaint ran 8 pages. Breach of oral contract. unjust enrichment. They claimed I had verbally agreed to help with the mortgage and then reneged, causing them financial harm and emotional distress. Calliope was listed as a witness. She would testify under oath that I'd promised to help during a family dinner, that my nod was as good as a signature, that I'd betrayed my own blood over money. I read it twice in my office, door closed, hands steady through sheer willpower. This was really happening. My parents weren't bluffing. They'd hired a lawyer, a real one, from a firm downtown, and they were taking me to court. The same people who'd raised me, who taught me to ride a bike and helped with homework, and sat in the front row at my college graduation. Now they wanted a judge to force me to pay for a house my sister lived in using a promise I never made as their weapon. I called Thaddeus. He answered on the first ring. I got served. Expected, he said. Don't panic. We're more than ready. They didn't even mention the forged signature. The whole complaint is about a verbal agreement. Because they know the documents are a problem. They're avoiding it on purpose. Will that work? No, because we're not going to let them. The lawsuit wasn't enough for my family. They needed the court of public opinion, too. Calliope posted first a long, carefully crafted message on social media. Some people care more about money than blood. I never thought my own sister would watch our parents lose their retirement over pride. Please keep our family in your thoughts during this difficult time. 392 reactions, 107 comments. Everyone from high school acquaintances to distant relatives weighing in with prayers and sympathy and thinly veiled criticism of the unnamed villain. Aunt Delphine commented, "Praying for you, sweetheart. Some people show their true colors eventually." Cousin Waverly, family should always come first. So sad when someone forgets that. A friend from my old neighborhood screenshots the post and texted me. Did you see this? Everyone's talking about you. I saw it. Saw the narrative being written in real time. Marlo the cold one. Marlo the selfish one. Marlo who abandoned her family over money. What they didn't post. The forged signature. The identity theft. The mortgage I never agreed to sign. Those details didn't fit the story they wanted to tell. I drafted a response, then deleted it. Drafted another, deleted that too. Thaddeus had warned me about this. Social media is a battlefield you can't win. Every word you say can be used against you. Let them talk. The courtroom is the only stage that matters. So I stayed silent. Watched my reputation get dismantled by people who'd never asked for my side. Watched family members I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly have opinions about my character. The hardest part wasn't the accusations. It was knowing that not a single person in those comments had called to ask if any of it was true. They'd already decided who I was. They always had. Christmas arrived like an afterthought. I'd been so focused on depositions and evidence and legal strategy that the holiday barely registered until the day itself. I found out about the family gathering through social media. My nephew Tyler, Calliope's oldest, posted a story. The whole family in matching pajamas gathered around my parents' tree. Mother, father, Calliope, Brennan, the kids, Aunt Delphine with her signature oversized wine glass, even Grandpa Theron sitting in his usual armchair by the fireplace. Everyone except me. No invitation, no call, not even a text asking if I wanted to come. I'd been erased from the picture, literally and figuratively. I watched the story 3 times, studied the smiles, the laughter, the performance of unity against the daughter who dared to say no. Mother texted that evening, just once. You chose this. Remember that. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I spent Christmas alone, ordered Thai food, poured myself a glass of wine, sat on my couch with the case files spread around me like the world's worst holiday decorations. Around 9 in the evening, my phone buzzed. Private message on social media from Grandpa's account. He barely knew how to use it, so someone must have helped him set it up. I'm sorry I tried to stop them. They wouldn't listen. Merry Christmas, Marlo. I cried for the first time since this whole thing started. Not because of the exclusion. I'd expected that, but because one person in that family had seen me. One person knew the truth and had the courage to say it. That night, I reread my email from 3 years ago. the one where I'd refused to co-sign. I'd saved it on a whim, never imagining I'd need it. Now it might save everything. March 3rd, 8:47 in the morning. Multnomah County Courthouse. I arrived 30 minutes early wearing my charcoal gray suit, the one I saved for client presentations and job interviews. Professional, put together, not a single hair out of place because I refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing me rattled. The courthouse smelled like old wood and industrial cleaner. My heels clicked against the marble floors as I walked toward courtroom 3B. Every sound echoed. Thaddeus met me in the hallway. He looked sharp in his navy suit, leather briefcase in hand. "How are you feeling?" "Like I'm about to watch my family lie under oath." "They probably will. That's what the evidence is for." We found seats near the front. The room was smaller than I'd imagined. Maybe 40 seats in the gallery, a raised bench for the judge, 2 tables facing forward for plaintiff and defendant. At 8:55 they arrived. Father first, in a suit I'd never seen before. Mother behind him, clutching his arm like she might collapse without support. Calliope came next, eyes red-rimmed. Whether from crying or strategic eye drops, I couldn't tell. Brennan followed, jaw tight, looking everywhere except at me. Behind them, Aunt Delphine, Cousin Waverly, 2 other relatives I barely recognized. The gallery filling with witnesses to my supposed villain. They took the plaintiff's table 20 feet away, close enough to see Mother's trembling hands, Father's rigid posture, Calliope whispering something to their lawyer. None of them looked at me. Thaddeus leaned close. "Remember, you have the truth. They have a story. Let's see which one holds up." The bailiff called the room to order. Everyone rose. The Honorable Margaret Reynolds presiding. The judge entered, stern face, silver hair pulled back, reading glasses perched on her nose. This was it. Their lawyer went first. Harrison Blackwell. Gray hair, expensive watch, the practiced confidence of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. "Your Honor, this is a case about broken promises." He paced slowly before the bench. "About a daughter who agreed to help her family and then changed her mind when the bills came due. I kept my face neutral. Show nothing. Give them nothing. We'll present evidence that the defendant verbally agreed to assist her parents with this mortgage. Her own sister witnessed this promise. A promise made at a family Christmas dinner in 2022. Blackwell called Calliope to the stand. She walked forward like she was heading to an execution, hands clasped, eyes downcast. The picture of reluctant testimony. "Mrs. Sutton Foster," Blackwell began. "Can you tell us about the Christmas dinner 2 years ago?" Calliope nodded, dabbed her eyes. "Marlo was there. We were all talking about how expensive houses had gotten. Mother mentioned she wanted to help me buy a home for my kids. And what did the defendant say?" she said. Calliope's voice cracked. She said, "I'll think about it." And then she nodded. We all saw it. "And you interpreted that as agreement?" "Yes. In our family, when someone nods, they're saying, 'Yes, that's just how we communicate.'" Father testified next. Same script, same rehearsed pauses. "She's my daughter." His voice was heavy with disappointment. "I raised her. I never thought she'd let us down like this." Not once did Blackwell mention the mortgage documents. Not once did he address the signature I supposedly wrote. The entire case rested on a nod at a dinner table, a moment no one could prove or disprove. They were avoiding the paper trail because they knew it would destroy them. Thaddeus stood slowly. Let the silence stretch. "Your Honor, my client never made any verbal agreement. She said she would think about it, which is not a promise, not a contract, and not consent." Blackwell shifted in his seat. Calliope stared at the floor. "But more importantly," Thaddeus continued, "even if she had agreed, it wouldn't matter, because there's a mortgage document in existence with her name on it, a document she did not sign." The courtroom went still. "I'd like to enter Exhibit A, the mortgage application for 5932 Ashmont Drive, showing Marlo Sutton as co-signer." He handed copies to the judge, the plaintiff's table, and Exhibit B, flight records and hotel receipts, proving my client was in Portland, Oregon, on the date this document was allegedly signed and notarized. Judge Reynolds studied the papers. Her expression didn't change, but her eyes narrowed. Mr. Kane, are you suggesting this signature was forged? I'm not suggesting, Your Honor. I'm stating it as fact. Thaddeus approached the evidence display. The mortgage signature appeared on screen large enough for everyone to see. Ms. Sutton, he said, turning to me. Is this your signature? I stood. My voice was clear. No, it is not. Would you please sign your name for the court? 3 times on this paper. I walked to the stand, took the pen, wrote my name 3 times, exactly as I always did. The M curved inward. The loop on the S was distinctive. Thaddeus placed my fresh signatures beside the mortgage document on the display. The difference was obvious, even from 20 feet away. The signature on the mortgage curves outward, Thaddeus said. Ms. Sutton's actual signature curves inward. She didn't sign this document. Someone else did. In the gallery, I heard Aunt Delphine inhale sharply. Okay, I need to pause here because this is where everything shifted. If you're still with me, I want to know what would you have done in my shoes? Pay up to keep the family peace or fight for the truth even when everyone's against you? Let me know in the comments. And if you're invested in what happened next, hit that subscribe button because the judge's response changed everything. Now, back to the courtroom because Thaddeus wasn't finished. Thaddeus reached for another folder. Your Honor, I'd like to enter Exhibit C, an email chain between Calliope Sutton Foster and Vincent Hayes, the loan officer who processed this mortgage application. Blackwell rose. Objection. Relevance. These emails directly demonstrate how my client's identity was added to this mortgage without her knowledge. They're central to our defense. Judge Reynolds nodded. I'll allow it. Proceed. Thaddeus read aloud, each word landing like a verdict. Email from Calliope Sutton Foster. Dated September 10th, 2023. Is there any way to add my sister to the application without her being physically present? She's traveling for work. I watched Calliope's face, the color draining. Brennan turning to stare at his wife. Reply from Vincent Hayes. If someone else handles the paperwork, we can process as long as the documents are properly notarized. Final email from Mrs. Sutton Foster. She can't do remote signing. She's at a conference, but my father can handle it on her behalf. The gallery erupted in whispers. Aunt Delphine's hand flew to her mouth. Father's face went from pale to red. Thaddeus turned to Calliope. Mrs. Sutton Foster, did you write these emails? Blackwell objected again, overruled. Calliope's voice came out strangled. I thought it was okay. My father said he would handle everything. She was throwing him under the bus. Her own father in front of a judge, in front of family, in front of everyone. Father's jaw dropped. Calliope? He told me it was fine. Her composure shattered. He said Marlo wouldn't even notice. Brennan stood up, sat back down, looked at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Judge Reynolds' gavel cracked against the bench. Order. We will have order in this courtroom. But the damage was done. Everyone had heard. Everyone knew. Judge Reynolds removed her reading glasses, folded them carefully, set them on the bench. The room held its breath. I've reviewed the plaintiff's complaint, she began. They allege a verbal agreement, a nod at a Christmas dinner as the basis for demanding $712,000 from the defendant. She paused, looked directly at my parents. I've also reviewed the defense's evidence, flight records proving the defendant was in Portland on the date the mortgage was signed, signature analysis showing clear discrepancies, and email communications between the plaintiff's own witness and a loan officer explicitly discussing how to add the defendant's name to documents without her presence. Mother started crying. Real tears this time. This court does not exist to enforce family expectations. Judge Reynolds continued. It exists to enforce the law, and the law is clear. A verbal agreement, even if it existed, would not obligate anyone to pay $712,000, especially when the documentary evidence suggests that same person's identity may have been fraudulently used. She straightened the papers in front of her. The plaintiff's case relies entirely on testimony about a dinner conversation. The defense has presented documented proof that the defendant never signed the mortgage application and wasn't even in the state when it was allegedly notarized. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I'm dismissing this case with prejudice. Her gavel fell. Furthermore, I'm referring the mortgage documents and related emails to the district attorney's office for review of potential fraud charges. Aunt Delphine gasped. Father gripped the edge of the table. Calliope buried her face in her hands. The word dismissed echoed through the courtroom, and for the first time in 6 months, I exhaled. But we weren't done yet. Thaddeus rose immediately. Your Honor, while the plaintiff's case is dismissed, my client has a counterclaim to address. Judge Reynolds nodded. Proceed. Marlo Sutton is filing suit against Darius Sutton, Lorraine Sutton, and Calliope Sutton Foster for identity fraud, forgery, and damages to her credit and professional reputation. The room buzzed. Blackwell looked stricken. He clearly hadn't prepared for this. We're requesting that the defendant be removed from all mortgage documents immediately, Thaddeus continued. We're also seeking reimbursement for legal fees incurred defending against a fraudulent lawsuit, as well as compensation for the damage done to her credit score, damage that threatened her career in the financial industry. A bank representative I hadn't noticed before stood. Your Honor, Pacific Northwest Bank will cooperate fully. We're already conducting an internal investigation into how this application was processed. Judge Reynolds made a note. The counterclaim will proceed to formal hearing. However, given the evidence presented today, I'm ordering an immediate review of the mortgage documents in question. If fraud is confirmed, the defendant's name should never have been attached and will be removed. She looked at my family, then at me. Miss Sutton, do you have anything to add? I stood. My legs felt steadier than I expected. I looked at my parents, at Calliope, at the relatives who'd come to watch me lose. I never wanted this. My voice was quiet but clear. I didn't ask to be put on a mortgage I never agreed to. I didn't ask to be sued by my own family. You chose to do this instead of apologize. Remember that. I sat back down. No dramatic speech, no accusations, just the truth. Sometimes that's enough. The bailiff announced recess. People began to move. I gathered my things slowly, letting the reality sink in. We'd won. Not completely. The counterclaim still needed to proceed, but the attack was over. They tried to use the law as a weapon against me, and it had backfired. Thaddeus touched my shoulder. You did good in there. I told the truth, that's all. Sometimes that's the hardest thing. I walked into the hallway. The fluorescent lights seemed brighter now, less oppressive. Grandpa Theron was waiting by the window. He looked older than he had at Thanksgiving, tired. But when he saw me, something shifted in his face. I'm proud of you, he said. Your grandmother would be too. Thank you for the hint about the notary date. Least I could do. Should have done more. Behind us, footsteps. Fast, angry. Calliope burst through the courtroom doors, Brennan trailing behind. Her mascara was ruined, her careful composure gone. You destroyed this family, she screamed at me. I didn't turn around, didn't engage. Brennan's voice came next, but not directed at me. You lied to me. He was talking to Calliope. You said she agreed. You said this was all legal. Brennan, I can explain. Can you? Because I just heard you admit in a courtroom that you helped forge your own sister's signature. I kept walking. Behind me, their argument escalated. Calliope crying, Brennan demanding answers, the sound of a marriage cracking under the weight of discovered deception. Thaddeus caught up with me at the elevator. That went better than expected. I pressed the down button, watched the numbers climb. Did it? My parents tried to steal from me. My sister testified against me, and I had to prove my innocence in front of a judge. He had no answer for that. Neither did I. 2 months after the hearing, the pieces fell into place. First, the bank completed its investigation. Vincent Hayes had violated multiple compliance protocols. Failure to verify identity, failure to confirm consent, processing documents without proper due diligence. His termination was announced in an internal memo that somehow found its way to Thaddeus. The notary who certified my signature was a man named Leonard Pembroke, a friend of my father's from their bowling league. He'd notarized the mortgage in Father's living room while I was 900 miles away. The Oregon Secretary of State revoked his license after a formal complaint. My name was officially removed from the mortgage. All of it. The application, the liability, the record on my credit report, expunged like it never happened. My credit score recovered within 90 days. The district attorney's office reviewed the fraud referral. In the end, they declined to pursue criminal charges. First offense, family matter, no intent to defraud the bank itself. But my father and Calliope both received civil penalties and formal warnings. A mark on their records that would follow them if they ever tried something similar again. My counterclaim settled out of court. They agreed to pay my legal fees in full, $26,000. It wasn't about the money. It was about accountability. I didn't celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. My family had committed fraud, dragged me through the legal system, smeared my name to everyone we knew, and their punishment was a fine and a warning. But I had my name back, my credit, my integrity. Some victories don't feel like winning. They feel like surviving, and sometimes surviving is enough. The family I'd known didn't survive the trial. Calliope and Brennan separated 3 months later. He'd moved out of the Ashmont house, the one that started everything, and filed for legal separation. Last I heard, they were negotiating custody. He told a mutual friend he couldn't trust her anymore. Not after what came out in that courtroom. My parents had to sell the house. Without my name supporting the mortgage, they couldn't keep up with payments on their own. They'd already drained their retirement for the down payment. Now, they were downsizing to a 2-bedroom condo in a neighborhood they used to drive past without stopping. Mother sent me one email after everything settled. 5 words. "You ruined us. Remember that." I didn't reply. Some accusations answer themselves. Aunt Delphine called unexpectedly in April. Her voice was different, smaller. "I didn't know the whole story," she said. "About the forged signature. About the emails. I believed what Calliope told everyone. I know. I'm sorry, Marlo. I should have asked you directly." I sat with that for a moment. The apology I'd never expected to receive. "Thank you for saying that," I finally said. Then I hung up. One apology from one aunt didn't erase what happened, but it reminded me that not everyone chooses to stay blind. Grandpa Theron sent me a handwritten letter that spring. His handwriting was shaky, but the words were clear. "I've updated my will. You're taken care of. You deserve to have someone in this family stand by you." He passed away 6 weeks later, peaceful in his sleep. At the funeral, I sat in the back row. No one spoke to me, but I was there. That was enough. 6 months after the trial, right now, as I'm telling you this story, things look different. I got promoted at work, senior accountant. My boss pulled me aside when he gave me the news. "I've seen people crumble under less pressure than what you went through. You didn't. That kind of backbone is rare." I started therapy for the first time, not because I was broken, but because I wanted to understand. Why did I accept being treated poorly for so long? Why did I keep showing up to holidays where I was the punchline? What made me think I deserved less than everyone else in that family? Dr. Montgomery, my therapist, said something that stuck with me. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us teach us to accept the unacceptable. Healing means unlearning those lessons. I'm still unlearning. I changed my last name legally. Chamberlain, my mother's maiden name before she married into the Sutton family. It felt right. A small act of reclamation. A way of saying I'm still connected to where I came from. But I choose who I become. Now I have a small group of friends. People who don't ask me to sacrifice my boundaries for their comfort. People who call to check on me, not to ask for money. Thaddeus and I get coffee every few weeks. He helped save my life financially and legally. We laugh about bad courtroom movies. We don't talk about my family unless I bring it up first. The quiet took some getting used to. No more crisis calls. No more guilt trips. No more holidays spent feeling like an outsider in my own bloodline. Now there's just peace. It's strange how much space opens up when you stop carrying other people's expectations. Last month, I wrote a letter to my parents, not to send, just to get the words out. Dr. Montgomery suggested it, a way to process without requiring a response. I sat at my kitchen table, pen in hand, and let myself write the truth. Mother and father, I loved you. I spent my whole life trying to earn something you gave freely. I worked harder, asked for less, and still I was never enough. You saw my boundaries as betrayal, my success as something to exploit. When I said no, you heard hatred. When I protected myself, you called it selfishness. I didn't destroy this family. The lies did. The forgery. The decision to steal my identity rather than respect my answer. I was your daughter. I deserve to be asked, not taken from. I deserve the truth, not a courtroom. Maybe someday I'll forgive you. Maybe I won't. But either way, I'm done waiting for an apology that isn't coming. I hope you find peace. I'm finding mine without you, Marlo. I read it 3 times. Let the emotions move through me. The grief, the anger, the strange relief of saying things I'd kept locked away for 32 years. Then I deleted the file. Dr. Montgomery was right. The act of writing was the point. Not sending, not receiving, just acknowledging what happened and what it cost me. Closure doesn't always come from an apology. Sometimes it comes from accepting you'll never get one. I closed my laptop, poured a glass of wine, watched the sun set over Portland. No one was coming to fix what happened. No one was going to make it right. But I was still here, still standing. That would have to be enough. And slowly, it was becoming exactly that. Today is an ordinary Saturday. I'm sitting in my apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows. There's coffee on the table, a book I've been meaning to finish, and the kind of silence that used to feel lonely, but now feels like freedom. My phone buzzes. Text from Thaddeus. Coffee tomorrow? Bring your brutal honesty. I smile, type back, always. Sometimes I think about what Father asked me that night on the phone. The question he meant as an insult. What do you even need that money for? I have an answer now. I need it for a life where no one can use me. For the freedom to say no without defending myself. For mornings like this one. Quiet, peaceful, entirely my own. On my bookshelf, there's a new photo frame. Grandpa and me taken at a restaurant last year. His last Christmas. We'd escaped the family gathering for an hour, just the 2 of us, and a waiter offered to take our picture. He's smiling in the photo, really smiling. The inscription on the back in his shaky handwriting. The strongest people are the ones who can walk away. I walked away, not because I didn't love them, but because loving myself meant more than earning theirs. They called me selfish, cold, the daughter who chose money over blood. But I didn't choose money. I chose integrity. I chose the right to my own signature, my own decisions, my own life. Some families lift you up. Some teach you to accept being knocked down. Mine taught me that no is a complete sentence. That keeping receipts isn't paranoia, it's protection. And that sometimes the people you share blood with are strangers, while the family you choose becomes everything. I didn't win because I had the better lawyer. I won because I never stopped believing I was worth fighting for. Looking back now, I can see the pattern so clearly. Every holiday, every family gathering, every phone call where I was made to feel like the problem, the golden child and the scapegoat. It's a dynamic as old as families themselves, and I'd been living it without recognizing what it was. Calliope could do no wrong. Every mistake was excused, every failure cushioned, every need met without question. And me? I was the one who had to earn basic respect through achievement, only to watch it mean nothing when it came time to actually be valued. The mortgage fraud wasn't an isolated incident. It was the culmination of 32 years of being treated as less than, less important, less worthy, less deserving of consideration. They'd been taking from me emotionally for decades. When they decided to take from me financially, it was just the next logical step in their minds. After all, if I existed to serve their needs, why would my signature, my credit, my future matter? I was a resource to be utilized, not a person to be respected. What hurts most isn't the fraud itself. It's realizing they truly believed they had the right to do it. Father's voice echoes sometimes. What do you even need that money for? As if my life, my goals, my security were irrelevant compared to Calliope's wants. as if 32 years of being their daughter earned me nothing but the obligation to sacrifice everything when they decided it was time. The therapy sessions have been revealing in ways I didn't expect. Dr. Montgomery helped me understand that I'd been conditioned from childhood to accept unacceptable treatment. Every time I achieved something and received criticism instead of praise, I learned that my accomplishments didn't matter. Every time Calliope got help I was denied, I learned that my needs didn't matter. Every time I set a boundary and was punished with silence or guilt, I learned that my autonomy didn't matter. By the time they forged my signature, I'd already spent decades learning that I didn't matter. The mortgage was just them acting on what they'd always believed. Breaking free from that conditioning has been harder than fighting the lawsuit. The lawsuit had a clear enemy, clear evidence, a clear resolution. But undoing years of psychological programming? That's a battle that doesn't end with a judge's gavel. It's choosing every day to believe I'm worth protecting. It's recognizing when old patterns try to resurface. When that voice in my head says maybe I am being selfish. Maybe I should just give them what they want. Maybe keeping the peace is more important than keeping my dignity. Some days are easier than others. Some days I wake up and the freedom feels pure and uncomplicated. Other days I catch myself reaching for my phone to call Mother, forgetting for a moment that we don't have that relationship anymore, that we never really did. The mother I wanted to call doesn't exist. She never existed. There was only the mother who saw me as a tool, and I'm done pretending otherwise. Calliope reached out once, about 4 months after the trial, a text message at 2 a.m. I know you hate me. I just want you to know I'm sorry. I stared at that message for an hour, trying to decide if I believed it, trying to decide if it mattered. Sorry for what? Exactly. Sorry for committing fraud? Sorry for lying under oath? Sorry for years of treating me like I was less than? Sorry for standing by while our parents sued me? Or just sorry she got caught? Sorry that her marriage fell apart and her perfect life crumbled and suddenly she didn't have the golden child pedestal to stand on anymore? I never responded. Some apologies come too late, and some damage can't be undone with a text message sent in the middle of a sleepless night. If she was truly sorry, she had opportunities to stop it. When Father first suggested forging my signature, when the mortgage officer asked for verification, when they filed the lawsuit, when she took the witness stand, she chose their side every time. Now that choosing their side has cost her everything, suddenly she's sorry. That's not remorse. That's regret over consequences. The extended family has mostly gone silent. Aunt Delphine's apology stands alone, a single voice of accountability in a chorus of enablers. The others have chosen their positions, and those positions don't include acknowledging what actually happened. It's easier for them to believe I'm the villain. Easier to maintain the narrative that I'm selfish and cold than to face the reality that the family they thought they knew was built on favoritism, manipulation, and ultimately fraud. I don't blame them entirely. Cognitive dissonance is powerful. When faced with evidence that contradicts deeply held beliefs, people often choose the beliefs over the evidence. They've spent years believing Calliope was perfect, and I was difficult. Accepting the truth would mean admitting they were wrong, that they participated in my marginalization, that their Christmas dinners and birthday parties and family gatherings were all built on a foundation of unfairness they chose not to see. So they don't see it now. They tell themselves I destroyed the family. They tell themselves I chose money over blood. They tell themselves whatever story lets them sleep at night. And I let them. Because their opinion of me is no longer my concern. The professional impact was something I worried about constantly during the trial. Accounting is built on trust, and a mortgage fraud scandal, even as a victim, could have destroyed my career. But my firm stood by me. My supervisor pulled me aside after the case was dismissed, told me he'd reviewed the court documents, told me he was impressed by how I'd handled it. That kind of backbone is rare, he said. We need people who understand integrity isn't just a concept, it's a practice. That conversation meant more than he probably realized. After years of my family treating my career as an inconvenience, having my professional integrity recognized and valued felt like vindication in a way the legal victory didn't. The promotion came with a salary increase that finally lets me build the savings I should have had all along. Savings that won't be drained by family emergencies that aren't really emergencies. Money that won't disappear into my sister's latest crisis or my parents' poor financial planning. For the first time in my adult life, every dollar I earn is mine to keep, mine to save, mine to spend on my own future. It's a freedom I didn't know I was missing until I had it. I've started thinking about buying a house. Not a 4-bedroom suburban showpiece like the one that started this nightmare. Something smaller, efficient, mine. A place where every decision, from paint colors to mortgage payments, belongs entirely to me. Where no one can add their name to my paperwork. Where the only person who has to approve of my choices is me. The idea terrifies and excites me in equal measure. Terrified because it means fully committing to this new life, this family-free existence. Excited because it represents everything I fought for. Autonomy, security, peace. Thaddeus has become the brother I never had. We meet for coffee most weekends, and our conversations range from work stress to terrible movies to occasionally, when I need it, processing what happened. He never pushes, never demands I be over it or move on faster. He just listens, offers perspective when asked, and reminds me that taking time to heal isn't weakness. He's also introduced me to his circle of friends, and through them I've started building something I never had growing up. Chosen family. People who like me for who I am, not who they need me to be. People who respect my boundaries instead of punishing me for having them. People who understand that no is a complete sentence and don't require explanations or justifications or guilt when I use it. Last month, one of Thaddeus's friends, a woman named Petra who works in tech, invited me to her birthday dinner. Casual, low-key, just good food and good company. I almost didn't go. Old habits whispered that I'd be awkward, that I wouldn't fit in, that nobody really wanted me there. But I went anyway, and it was easy, natural. Nobody interrogated me about my life choices. Nobody compared me to a more successful sibling. Nobody made me feel like I had to earn my seat at the table. We just talked, laughed, enjoyed the evening. Walking home that night, I realized that's what relationships are supposed to feel like. Effortless, reciprocal, safe. The weight of family obligation is gone, and in its absence I'm discovering who I actually am. Turns out I like hiking. I joined a weekend group that explores trails around Portland, and there's something meditative about the silence of the forest, the rhythm of footsteps, the absence of expectation, just movement and nature, and the space to think without anyone demanding to know what I'm thinking about. I've also started taking cooking classes, something I never had time for when family crises consumed my weekends. Learning to make fresh pasta, to properly sear a steak, to build flavors from scratch. It's creative in a way numbers aren't, and I'm learning to appreciate both sides of my brain. Sometimes I wonder what my life would look like if I'd given in, if I'd said yes when Calliope first asked to co-sign her apartment lease, if I'd agreed to the mortgage when they presented it as a done deal, if I'd paid the $712,000 and maintained the family peace. I'd be broke, probably. My credit destroyed. My career potentially compromised. Still showing up to holidays where I was treated as less than. Still fielding requests for money I didn't have. Still watching Calliope receive praise for taking what I gave without asking. I'd have kept the family, but I would have lost myself completely. And that's not a trade I'm willing to make anymore. The hardest moments are the ones where old programming kicks in unbidden. I'll see a mother and daughter shopping together, laughing over shared jokes, and feel a pang of loss. Not for my mother specifically, but for the idea of her. The mother I deserved but never had. The one who would have been proud of my CPA exam. Who would have respected my boundaries. Who would have chosen my well-being over my sister's convenience. That mother doesn't exist. She never did. Grieving her has been part of the healing process. Acknowledging that I'm mourning something I never actually had. Dr. Montgomery calls it ambiguous loss. Losing something that was never truly yours to begin with. It's complicated grief because there's no body, no funeral, no clear ending. Just the slow realization that the family you wanted isn't the family you have, and the painful choice to walk away from what is in pursuit of something better, even if that something better is just peace and solitude. Some people don't understand that choice. They hear I don't speak to my family anymore and assume I'm cold or damaged or harboring grudges. They don't understand that sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is remove yourself from toxicity, even when that toxicity comes wrapped in blood relation and childhood memories. I've started saying it plainly when people ask. My family and I are estranged. I don't offer explanations unless asked. Don't justify or defend. Just state it as fact. Some people are curious, some uncomfortable, some sympathetic. Their reactions tell me a lot about who they are. The ones who immediately jump to but their family are showing me their values align with obligation over well-being. The ones who say that must have been hard are showing me they understand complexity. And the ones who share their own stories of estrangement. Those are my people. The ones who know that sometimes love means walking away. There's a quote I found somewhere online that resonated deeply. Family is supposed to be our safe place. For some of us, it's the place we need protection from. I printed it out, framed it, hung it on my wall where I can see it every morning. A reminder that my experience is valid, that choosing myself wasn't selfish, that protecting my peace wasn't betrayal, that I deserved better than what they gave me, and it's okay to stop accepting less than I deserve. The future feels wide open now, not in an overwhelming way, but in a way that holds possibility. I can move cities if I want. Take a job across the country without worrying about aging parents who might need me. Except they never actually needed me. They needed my money. I can travel without guilt. Date without my mother's commentary on my choices. Live without a constant undercurrent of obligation and inadequacy. The freedom is still new enough to feel precious. I protect it carefully, guard it against anything that might threaten it, including second chances I don't owe anyone. Including reconciliation I'm not required to pursue. Including forgiveness that hasn't been earned. Because here's what I've learned. Forgiveness without accountability is just permission to hurt you again. And I'm done giving anyone permission to hurt me. People ask sometimes if I regret going to court, if I wish I'd handled it differently, kept it private, worked it out within the family. The answer is simple and complicated all at once. No, I don't regret it. Not for a single moment. Because keeping it private would have meant carrying the burden alone. It would have meant letting them control the narrative, letting them tell everyone I was selfish while hiding the truth of what they'd done. It would have meant accepting blame for setting boundaries, while they faced no consequences for crossing every line imaginable. The courtroom wasn't about revenge. It was about truth, about creating an official record that I was the victim, not the villain. About forcing them to face what they'd done in a space where charm and manipulation couldn't override documented evidence. Was it painful? Absolutely. Was it necessary? Without question. The trial transcript sits in a drawer in my home office. I've never read it start to finish. Don't need to. I lived it. But knowing it exists, knowing that somewhere in the official record of Multnomah County Civil Court, there's documentation that I was right, that they were wrong, that justice saw through their lies that matters. It means when doubt creeps in, when old programming tries to convince me I overreacted or destroyed the family over nothing, I have proof. Not just for others, but for myself. My credit score is back above 800 now. Seems almost anticlimactic after everything. Just a number on a screen, climbing back to where it should have been all along if my name had never been stolen and attached to debt I never authorized. But that number represents something bigger than creditworthiness. It represents reclaimed identity. It represents the difference between being a victim of fraud and being free from it. Every month when I check my credit report and see nothing but accounts I opened, debt I chose, financial decisions I made, I feel a small surge of satisfaction. This is mine. All of it. The good, the bad, the mediocre. Mine. I've been thinking about what comes next. Not just career-wise or financially, but in terms of building a life that feels full, rather than just safe. Safety was the first goal. Establishing boundaries, removing threats, creating stability. I've achieved that. Now comes the harder work of actually living, of pursuing joy instead of just avoiding pain, of building toward something, instead of just protecting what I have. It's strange how foreign that concept feels. How much of my energy has been spent in defensive mode, bracing for the next crisis, the next demand, the next guilt trip. Learning to live offensively, proactively, choosing things because I want them, rather than reacting to what others need from me. It's a skill I'm having to develop from scratch. Last week, I booked a trip to Iceland. Solo travel. 2 weeks exploring waterfalls and geothermal springs, and the northern lights if I'm lucky. I've never done anything like it. Never allowed myself the time or expense or freedom. There was always a reason to say no. Family obligations, work demands, practical concerns about money that should have been mine, but somehow always ended up redirected toward someone else's needs. Now there's no one to answer to. No one to justify the expense to. No one to make me feel guilty for choosing adventure over obligation. Just me, a plane ticket, and the promise of experiencing something beautiful, just because I want to. The anticipation feels electric. I've also started volunteering with a financial literacy nonprofit, teaching people, especially women and young adults, how to protect their credit, recognize fraud, understand their rights. Every class I teach, I see younger versions of myself, people conditioned to put others first, people who don't know they're allowed to say no, people who believe family obligation supersedes personal well-being. I share pieces of my story, carefully edited but honest enough to matter. I watch recognition dawn on faces. That happened to you? Professional, put together you? It normalizes the abnormal. It gives permission to protect yourself even when protection feels selfish. One woman approached me after a class last month. Mid-40s, well-dressed, successful by conventional metrics. She told me her brother had been pressuring her to co-sign a business loan. 6 figures. High risk. She'd been feeling guilty for hesitating. "Your story saved me," she said. "I was about to say yes just to keep the peace. Now I know peace isn't worth my financial security." I gave her my card, offered to connect her with Thaddeus if she needed legal advice. Watching her walk away with her shoulders a little straighter, her resolve a little firmer, I felt something I hadn't expected. Purpose. Maybe this is why it happened. Not that it was supposed to happen, or that there's some grand plan or silver lining. But maybe I can take something terrible and turn it into something useful. Maybe helping others avoid my mistakes gives meaning to the pain I endured. Dating has been interesting. Not actively pursuing it, but open to possibilities in a way I never was before. When you grow up watching love used as a weapon, watching affection withheld as punishment, watching relationships structured around debt and obligation, you develop a warped understanding of what partnership should look like. I'm having to unlearn those patterns. Having to recognize that someone asking about my day is care, not interrogation. That someone respecting my space is healthy, not distance. That disagreement doesn't have to end in days of silent treatment. It's awkward sometimes, explaining why I don't talk to my family. First dates don't typically include, so I sued my parents for identity fraud, and now we're estranged as casual conversation. But I've learned it's better to be honest up front. The ones who can't handle complexity aren't right for me anyway. Met someone recently. Not calling it anything serious yet, but there's potential. His name is Adrian. Works in architecture. Kind eyes. Easy laugh. He asked about my family on our second date, and I gave him the abbreviated version. His response? That took courage. Most people stay stuck in dysfunction because leaving feels impossible. I appreciated that he saw strength instead of damage. Saw choice instead of failure. We've been taking it slow. Coffee dates. Long walks. Conversations that flow naturally. He hasn't tried to fix me or save me or convince me to reconcile with people who hurt me. He just accepts where I am and enjoys my company. It's novel enough to feel almost suspicious, like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Dr. Montgomery says that's normal, that trusting good things takes practice when you've been conditioned to expect betrayal. So I'm practicing. The seasons have changed since the trial. Spring turned to summer, turned to fall, turned to winter, turned to spring again. Life cycles continuing, whether I'm ready or not. I planted a small herb garden on my balcony last month. Basil, rosemary, thyme, cilantro. Something about nurturing growth, about creating something that requires care but gives back, feels therapeutic. I talk to the plants sometimes. Not in a concerning way, just gentle encouragement. You're doing great. Keep growing. Look how strong you're getting. Maybe I'm talking to them. Maybe I'm talking to myself. Maybe it doesn't matter as long as the words get said. Therapy continues. Probably will for a while. Dr. Montgomery suggested we shift focus from processing trauma to building future. From understanding what happened to deciding what comes next. It's a different kind of work. Less about excavating pain and more about constructing possibility. We've been exploring questions like, what does family mean to you now? What relationships do you want to cultivate? What does success look like outside of just survival? The answers are still forming, still shifting, but the questions themselves feel like progress. What does family mean to me now? I think it means choice. It means people who show up consistently, who respect boundaries, who celebrate achievements without qualifiers, who support without keeping score. It means Thaddeus bringing coffee when I'm stressed. It means Petra inviting me to her birthday without expecting anything in return. It means Adrian listening when I need to talk and knowing when I need silence. It means Grandpa Theron's letter telling me I deserve to have someone stand by me. It means building connections based on mutual care rather than biological obligation. Blood doesn't make you family. Behavior does. I've started writing again. Not just therapy exercises or legal documents or work reports. Creative writing. Short stories. Personal essays. Putting words to experiences in ways that feel cathartic and terrifying simultaneously. Some of it's about the trial. Most of it's about everything else. The small moments of realization. The quiet victories. The daily choice to believe I'm worth the space I take up. I'm not planning to publish anything. This is just for me. A record of transformation. Evidence that I'm becoming someone different from who I was raised to be. Someone I actually like. One essay I wrote recently was about the concept of inheritance. Not money or property, but the intangible things passed down through generations. My parents inherited the belief that children are extensions of parents, resources to be utilized, rather than individuals to be respected. They inherited the idea that family loyalty means unconditional compliance. They inherited the practice of favoritism, of golden children and scapegoats, and they passed all of that down to Calliope and me, expecting us to carry it forward. But inheritance isn't obligation. I can look at what I've been given and decide what to keep and what to discard. I'm keeping resilience. I'm keeping the work ethic my father demonstrated even if he didn't value mine. I'm keeping my mother's attention to detail even if she never noticed mine. I'm discarding the obligation without boundaries, the favoritism, the manipulation, the belief that some people matter more than others. The next generation, whether my own or people I mentor or students I teach, they'll inherit something different from me. They'll inherit the knowledge that no is sacred, that boundaries are self-care, that walking away from toxicity is strength, not weakness. Financial independence has given me options I never had before. I've been able to help others in ways my family never helped me. Not grand gestures, no $700,000 mortgages, but a coworker struggling with unexpected medical bills. I anonymously covered her copays through the company assistance fund. A friend's kid needing school supplies. Sent an Amazon package with everything on the list. The barista who mentioned money was tight. Left a $50 tip on a $5 coffee. These aren't obligations. They're choices. I give because I want to. Because I can. Because it feels good to help when helping doesn't come with strings attached. This is what generosity should look like. Free. Joyful. Reciprocated not through demands, but through genuine gratitude. The mortgage company sent me a letter last week. Just a form notification that the property at 5932 Ashmont Drive had been sold. New owners. Clean title. No mention of the fraud that had once attached my name to it. Just paperwork documenting the end of something that should never have begun. I filed it away with the rest of the documents from that period. Not to forget, but to remember. To have evidence when memory softens edges, when time makes me doubt whether it was really as bad as I remember. It was. The documents prove it, and that matters. Sometimes I drive past my parents' new condo, not intentionally. It's just on the route to my favorite hiking trailhead. I see their car in the parking lot sometimes. Wonder what they tell people about why they downsized. Wonder if they've learned anything, or if they still see themselves as victims of my cruelty. Wonder if Calliope visits them, if they've transferred their enabling to her children, if the patterns continue unchallenged. Then I drive past, and the wondering fades, and I'm just on my way to somewhere beautiful, somewhere peaceful, somewhere that has nothing to do with them. And that's enough. Healing isn't linear. Some days I feel completely free, powerful, proud of myself for choosing difficult truth over comfortable lies. Other days I feel orphaned, not because I miss them specifically, but because I miss the idea of them, the parents who should have existed, the family that could have been mine if they'd made different choices. Both feelings are valid. Both can be true simultaneously. I'm allowed to be glad I left and sad about what I lost. I'm allowed to know I did the right thing and still grieve what could never be. The support group I joined has helped with that. Adult children estranged from abusive families. We meet twice a month, share stories, validate experiences, remind each other that we're not crazy, not ungrateful, not broken, just people who chose well-being over obligation. There's a woman in the group, Simone, whose parents sued her for grandparent rights. A man, Derek, whose family disowned him for being gay. A younger woman, barely 25, whose mother tried to steal her identity for credit cards. Our circumstances differ, but the core truth is the same. We all had to leave people who were supposed to love us, because their version of love was destroying us. We all faced the choice between family and self, and chose self, and are still learning to believe that choice wasn't selfish. Simone said something at last week's meeting that stuck with me. She said for years I felt like I'd lost my family. Now I realize I never had them to lose. What I lost was the fantasy. And that's actually okay. The fantasy was exhausting. Reality, even when reality is estrangement, is easier because it's true. I think about that a lot. How much energy I spent trying to earn love that was never going to be given. How much effort I put into being good enough, successful enough, helpful enough, only to learn that enough was a moving target designed to keep me chasing. The relief of stopping, of accepting that the game was rigged, of walking away from the table instead of playing one more round hoping this time would be different. The holidays are different now. Not worse, just different. No more performing gratitude I don't feel. No more watching Calliope receive gifts while I receive criticism. No more tension headaches from plastering on smiles while absorbing passive-aggressive comments. Last Christmas, I volunteered at a soup kitchen. Served meals to people who thanked me with genuine warmth, who didn't expect anything beyond kindness, who didn't keep score or hold grudges or make me earn basic human decency. It was the best Christmas I'd had in years. This year I'm planning to go skiing. Solo trip to the mountains. No family drama, no obligation. Just me and snow and silence and the kind of peace that comes from having nothing to prove to anyone. Birthdays, too. My 33rd birthday passed last month. No card from mother. No call from father. No passive-aggressive Facebook post from Calliope. Just quiet. And from that quiet, Thaddeus organized a surprise dinner. Small group. Good food. People who actually wanted to celebrate me, not the version of me they needed me to be. Adrian gave me a first edition of my favorite book, said he'd been searching for months to find it. Petra made a cake from scratch. We laughed. We talked. We toasted to good health and good friends and good boundaries. I went home that night feeling full in a way I never did after family celebrations, full of genuine connection instead of performative obligation. Work continues to be a source of stability and pride. The promotion opened doors I didn't even know existed. I'm leading a team now. 3 junior accountants who look to me for guidance. I try to be the mentor I never had. When they make mistakes, I teach rather than criticize. When they succeed, I celebrate without qualifiers. When they need time off, I approve it without guilt trips. One of them, a young woman named Iris, fresh out of college, reminds me of myself at that age. Driven, precise, carrying the weight of proving herself in ways men never have to. I pulled her aside last week, told her she doesn't have to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Told her to document everything, trust her instincts, build boundaries early. Told her the things I wish someone had told me. She teared up. Said no one had ever validated her like that before. I recognized that feeling. Gave her my personal number. Told her to reach out if she ever needed support navigating workplace dynamics. Building the support system I never had. One connection at a time. The money from the settlement sits in a high-yield savings account. $26,000. Blood money in a way. Compensation for pain. For credit damage. For legal fees I shouldn't have needed. I haven't touched it. Can't bring myself to spend it on anything frivolous. It feels too heavy, too tied to everything that happened. Dr. Montgomery suggested I reframe it. It's not payment for suffering, she said. It's acknowledgement of wrong. It's accountability in dollar form. It's them finally contributing to your life in a way that actually helps instead of harms. I'm considering donating some of it to the financial literacy nonprofit, funding classes for people who need the education I'm providing, turning their harm into someone else's help. The symmetry appeals to me. My apartment has changed too, slowly becoming mine in ways it never was when I was just existing rather than living. Art on the walls. Real art from local artists, not mass-produced prints. Plants everywhere, thriving under my care. Books lining shelves I built myself. A record player and vinyl collection that's become a weekend ritual. Cooking real meals in a kitchen I'm learning to use properly. Creating space that reflects who I am, rather than just serving function. Adrian commented on it last week. Your place feels like you, he said. Calm but interesting, put together, but not pretentious. I took it as the compliment it was. For years I'd lived in spaces that were just storage for my stuff. Now I'm building a home. The legal aftermath continues quietly in the background. Calliope and Brennan finalized their divorce last month. According to mutual acquaintances who can't help but share gossip, the settlement was messy. He got primary custody, citing her documented dishonesty during the mortgage fraud trial. She got the debt from the house sale that went underwater, stuck with a loss she can't afford. I feel nothing about it. No vindication. No pity. Just detachment. Her choices led to consequences. That's how life works. Whether she learns from them or not isn't my concern anymore. My parents apparently declared bankruptcy 6 months after selling the house. Too much debt, too little income, retirement funds already depleted. They're living on Social Security now. Modest means. No safety net. Exactly what they feared would happen if I didn't pay the mortgage. Except I didn't cause it. Their poor planning caused it. Their decision to gamble their retirement on Calliope's dream home caused it. Their choice to commit fraud rather than live within their means caused it. I'm not responsible for their financial destruction any more than I was responsible for their financial salvation. They made their choices. These are the outcomes. Sometimes natural consequences are the only teacher that works. I heard through Aunt Delphine that Mother tried to reconcile last fall. Asked Delphine to reach out, to see if I'd be willing to talk. No apology offered. No acknowledgement of wrong. Just a vague request for contact because family should be together. I told Delphine no. Politely but firmly. Until there's genuine accountability, genuine remorse, genuine change in behavior, there's nothing to talk about. And honestly, even with all of that, I'm not sure reconciliation is something I want. The damage is too deep. The trust too broken. The pattern too established. Some things can't be fixed. Sometimes the healthiest option is to let go completely and build something new instead. I think about Grandpa Theron often. His courage in that driveway. His quiet support when everyone else was against me. His final letter telling me I was taken care of. that someone in the family stood by me. His inheritance was modest, $15,000. Not life-changing money, but deeply meaningful. He'd specifically noted in his will that it was for me alone, not to be shared with other family members, not to be used to help anyone who'd hurt me. Just mine, to use however I saw fit. I used part of it for the Iceland trip, part for the first edition book collection I'm building, part donated to organizations supporting financial abuse victims, part saved for future adventures I haven't even imagined yet. Every dollar spent or saved in his honor, in gratitude for being seen when everyone else looked through me. I visited his grave last month, small cemetery on the edge of town, brought flowers, sat on the grass beside his headstone, talked to him like he could hear me, told him about the promotion, the trip, the new friends, the possibility of romance with Adrian, told him I was okay, better than okay, thriving in ways that seemed impossible a year ago, told him he was right about everything, about checking the notary date, about the family being wrong, about standing up being worth it even when it cost everything, told him I missed him, that I wished he could see who I'm becoming, that his faith in me meant more than he probably knew. A woman visiting another grave nearby approached as I was leaving, said she couldn't help but overhear, said whatever I'd been through, it sounded like I'd found peace on the other side. I told her I was getting there, some days closer than others, but yes, peace was emerging. She smiled, said healing isn't linear, but it is possible, wished me well, walked away, strangers offering kindness in quiet moments, the universe reminding me that not everyone is cruel, not everyone takes. Sometimes people give for no reason other than recognizing another human who needs it. The support group meetings have taught me that estrangement looks different for everyone. Some people have complete no contact. Others maintain minimal, superficial connection. Some have left the door open for reconciliation if certain conditions are met. Others have closed it permanently. There's no right answer, no one-size-fits-all approach. Just individuals making the best decisions they can with the information and emotional capacity they have. For me, right now, complete no contact feels right. Maybe that will change. Maybe it won't. I'm giving myself permission to not know, to let it evolve or not as circumstances and emotions dictate. The only commitment I've made is to myself, that I won't sacrifice my well-being for family peace ever again. Everything else is negotiable. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to fight for your own boundaries against the people who should have protected you, I see you. You're not alone. Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, there's another one waiting in the description about a woman whose in-laws tried to take her inheritance. Trust me, you won't want to miss the twist. Thank you for staying until the end.